So, Kwesi, what do you think matters more, your bio or your backstory?
Hmm. Well, I used to think it was my bio, all the things that I've accomplished,
Yeah.
my Bachelor of Commerce and all of these things. But what I realized is that it's really who I am and why I care about what I do. And I used to put on my LinkedIn profile BCom, right? Because I have a Bachelor of Commerce. And I used to think that all the certifications and degrees that I had is what is really going to touch and impact people. But it really has
Yes.
nothing to do with that. Do you do anything like that?
Well, let me tell you, I have a lot of I have a lot to say on this. I'm not going to say it all here today, but I also have a lot of experience with this because I found myself in the financial services industry back in 2010. And Kwesi, I have zero certification. I did work at a bank briefly back in like the day, but I have no history in financial services. I came from healthcare. And
Mm.
so I used to always feel like I had to prove myself, right? And I spent years proving myself. And then in 2017, it was January 11, 2017, I was hired to do like a half day communication, kind of workshop thing with a group of advisors. And I decided to share what we're calling backstory here, if you're watching us, is your why you care story. We're not talking necessarily about your origin story. We are talking about your story as to why you care about the people you serve. So, Kwesi, I took this really big risk. I was terrified. I opened my heart. I shared a really vulnerable story about why I care about financial services and helping them. And I'll never forget it. There were two advisors, like third row, kind of sitting on my left hand side. As soon as I was done, their hands go shooting up in the air. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, why are their hands up? Right? What are they going to say? And so I called on the first advisor and he says, Deirdre, it means a lot to me that you understand what we do. Thank you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But then the next advisor, and imagine if someone said this to you. Okay. Imagine if someone said this to you. He leans forward. His name was Joe. I found out later. And he's like, I want you to know I will believe anything you say right now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I I was simultaneously like relieved and happy, but I was also ticked off. I call it my Wizard of Oz moment.
Okay.
I'll tell you why it was my Wizard of Oz moment. In the Wizard of Oz, when Glinda the Good Witch is like, she's showing Dorothy that she could tap her feet and get back to Oz. And Dorothy's like, it was in me all the time, right? That's how I felt. All I could think was, do you mean I have spent the last 7 years in this industry trying to prove myself with all my case studies and credentials? And all I had to do was be myself and share why I care about you. And you will believe anything I say? Could it really be that simple? And so I did a little experiment. I changed nothing about the way I marketed my business, talked about my business for the next 2 years, Kwesi, and our
Mm,
business grew by 60% just by me continuously sharing that story.
mm, mm.
And so that was a watershed moment. And it changed actually how I coach and what I teach, because I started thinking, well, what about my clients? Would this actually bring them results? Would it deepen trust quickly and connection and likability for them? And turns out, same scenario. I have not met a person yet who doesn't say to me, oh my gosh, when I share the right story, it has to be the right story, as you and I know, has
Yeah.
to be crafted in the right way, that people don't lean forward and build that instant connection and trust.
And it doesn't matter what I realize, it doesn't matter what crowd you're in front of. I think a lot of
Yeah.
times, people that I coach or people I come across, I tell them about this story. They think, oh, if I have a serious audience in front of me, if I have a certain type of audience, they just want the facts. They just want me to get to the details. And it's not that case at all because we're all humans at the end of the day. And when we
Yeah.
share why we care about what we do, when we share that story, it doesn't matter. That person in the audience didn't say, "Oh, what financial certifications do you have?" or "What background do you have in this industry?" They said, "Okay, you know what? I'm with you." And that's why it's so important. And I'm getting to the point where I don't really care about the letters after my name anymore. And it gives you confidence to walk into a room and say, "You know what? If people are sitting in the room that have more education than I have, it doesn't matter because I connect with them through story and through why I
Ex-
care about it." Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do this experiment. activity, I'll call it. It was an experiment the first few times I did it. Now it's an activity whenever I speak, and I speak on this topic of get what I call get to the yes quicker, how to increase trust, connection, and likability. And it's through this type of story. And so I have the audience rate me on a scale of 0 to 10 on how much they like me, how connected they feel to me, and how much they trust that I'm not there just because it's the way I make a living, but I also care about them. So I have them rate me as soon as I come on the stage. And then I share my story about why I care about them. I have them rate me again. And then later in the presentation, I'm making the point of how powerful the story is. I'll say, okay, if my score went up even 1 point in any of those three categories after you heard my story, please stand. Kwesi, I've been doing this since probably 2018, hundreds of audiences. It's always the same reaction. 99% of the people in the room stand.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And then when I interview them, so then I'll interview them. I did this just last Thursday, and I'll say, what did I go from? I had people telling me on Thursday, I went from a 3 in trust to a 10,
mm,
or a 0 on connection to an 8 with a 3-minute story.
mm, that's powerful. That's
It's so
powerful.
powerful.
Yeah. And I do that more informally. I don't have an actual scale where I say rate me on 1 to 10, but a
Yeah.
lot of times I spend my time speaking in front of the hardest group you can possibly imagine, which is students, and
Yes.
especially high school students. And I do the same thing. I tell stories within my keynote, and I start with why I care so much about helping them build their mental health, build their resilience. And I don't ask them to rate me after, but I can see that whatever number was in their head in the beginning versus what's at
Yeah.
the end is higher, because they start as all high school students start, right? Arms crossed.
Arms
This
false.
guy, who cares that he was a former police officer, right? That's credentials. But by the
For
time I get to
sure.
the end of the speech, I've had students come up to me and say, you know what, I'm going to talk to you about something that I don't share with my teachers, I don't share with my parents, um, but I want to talk to you about it. And that to me is the equivalent to your rating of, hey, they've built that know, like, and trust with me simply because I told them a story. So it's that powerful, especially with, students that I have nothing in common with, people I've met 45 minutes earlier.
Exactly. And I'd say you wouldn't ask to be rated. That would be weird. The only reason I can do it is I'm teaching on the specific
Yeah,
story, right? So
100%.
I'm proving
Yes.
the
Yeah,
point
yeah,
about the
yeah. No,
story.
you do it to prove a
Exactly.
point, and it
The
comes
point.
and it's
Yeah.
perfectly suited to your audience.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
you know
it's
what? To,
that's
to your
powerful.
point, to your point, if you are vulnerable with people first, and you have to be appropriate, right? This is where having the skill and knowing how to identify the story and knowing what to choose for the story topic and the details, right? But if you're appropriate and you're appropriately vulnerable first, people will open up to you in ways they never would. So I had two audience members, two advisors come up to me last week, and Kwesi, the things that these two men shared with me, one hadn't even shared it with most of his colleagues, was absolutely so moving to me to be able to help them in this way, and that they were willing to share these really just tough situations that they were going through simply because I was willing to open up first. It is absolutely beautiful. So I think my final word on this is, if you're watching this, don't be afraid to show people who you are. It is really time to stop proving yourself and start being yourself.
Oh, I love that. Stop proving yourself and start being yourself.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, we help people create that story, the stories that are going to have that type of impact. Just talk for a quick minute on why it's important not to get the wrong story um, in
Oh,
that place. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, yes. So here's the thing. If you choose the wrong topic for the story or the wrong through line, like the wrong point for your story, it's going to be a miss, and it's going to feel like TMI at best and manipulative at worst.
Mm,
So there's no what I call gratuitous vulnerability. We are not saying be vulnerable for the sake of being vulnerable. We are saying share earnestly from your life why you care about these people so they are more willing to open up and learn from you and work with you. So there's got to be strategy behind it.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're here to help put that together for you and help you craft that story so you could have that impact the way Deirdre talked about.
Awesome. All right. I think it's a wrap. Make it
Okay.
a crazy good day.